For those of us who grew up with a controller in hand, there's nothing quite like dusting off an old favorite and asking the big question, is this as good as I remember? Does it still hold up? Has this game aged better with time? Can it still grab a new generation, or is it just a relic of a bygone era? That's what we're here to find out today. Today we're kicking off this series with a deep dive into a game that, for many, might have flown under the radar. I'm talking about The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap for the Game Boy Advance. Released back in 2004, this little gem took the classic Zelda formula and flipped it on its head, letting Link shrink down to the size of an insect. The central question for this episode is whether this seemingly small adventure still packs a big punch. By the time the Minish Cap went into development, the Legend of Zelda series had already achieved mainstream acclaim for nearly every game it had released thus far. The Minish Cap was primarily developed by Capcom and their subsidiary Flagship. Flagship had already proven their Zelda chops with the well-received Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages games for the Game Boy Color. Plus, they also developed the Game Boy Advance remake of Link to the Past and Four Swords. Flagship itself was a pretty unique setup. Initially funded by a consortium that included Capcom, Nintendo, and Sega. This multi-company backing suggests a smart move to create a specialized studio that could really nail down handheld game development. And honestly, their success with the Oracle games really showed that they knew what they were doing when it came to Zelda. The Minish Cap entered production following the release of the Oracle games, but was suspended to allow the team to focus on Four Swords. And honestly, I think the shift in focus and pause before Minish Cap really allowed the Game Boy Advance technology to catch up. It feels like this ultimately delivered a better gaming experience that we may not have gotten if it had been pushed out earlier. Former theme park designer Hidemaru Fujibayashi had already directed both Oracle games and Four Swords, and was tapped again with the task of tackling the Minish Cap. He would continue to see success in the Zelda franchise afterwards, acting as sub-director of the Phantom Hourglass, and director of Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom. When it came to the Minish Cap, Fujibayashi aimed to fix a player experience issue with the creation of Ezlo, Link's magical talking cap. He revealed that Ezlo was created because the development team felt that there was a struggle with the lack of a character who could effectively explain situations and guide the player like Navi did in the Ocarina of Time. This shows a development philosophy that really prioritizes player guidance and accessibility. They listened to feedback, or at least their own internal assessment of player pain points from earlier games. By bringing in Ezlo, they aim to smooth out any potential confusion, making the whole experience more intuitive and enjoyable. This focus on user experience is a hallmark of great game design, and it's a big reason why a game can age gracefully. Clear guidance is always valuable, no matter how old the tech gets. Sure, you don't want a game to be extremely handholdy, but you also don't want to be left wondering what you're supposed to do next either. The Minish Cap first launched in Japan and Europe in November 2004, followed by North America in early January of 2005. Upon its release, the game was overwhelmingly well received by critics, earning an aggregate score of 90% on game rankings and a solid 89 out of 100 on Metacritic. The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap tells a story that, while sticking to those classic Zelda beats, introduces some fresh characters and lore that really adds to the franchise. The adventure kicks off during Hyrule's annual Picori Festival, a celebration of the tiny, unseen Picori who, centuries ago, helped a hero seal away evil. Link, tagging along with Princess Zelda, witnesses things go sideways fast. Vaati, a mysterious and powerful sorcerer, crashes the festival's sword-fighting tournament, shatters the sacred Picori blade, and unleashes a horde of monsters across Hyrule. His real goal? The Light Force, and in pursuit of this, he turns Princess Zelda to stone. With Hyrule in chaos and its princess petrified, Link is sent on a quest by King Daltis to find the fabled Picori, hoping that they can reforge the broken blade. In the Minish Woods, Link stumbles upon Ezlo, a talking cap who then becomes his companion. Turns out that Ezlo was once a Minish sage and Vaati's former master. He created the powerful Mage's Cap. Vaati then stole it, using its magic to gain dark powers and curse Ezlo into his current form. Together, Link and Ezlo must gather the 4 elemental essences to reforge the Picori blade into the legendary Four Sword and save Zelda. As their journey unfolds, they uncover a crucial piece of lore. The Light Force, Vaati's ultimate desire, is inherently passed down through Hyrule's princesses. This revelation adds a serious layer of urgency and personal connection to Zelda's predicament. In the sprawling and often debated Legend of Zelda timeline, the Minish Cap holds a pretty significant spot. It's chronologically placed after Skyward Sword, acting as a prequel to Four Swords. The game explicitly tells the origin story of the antagonist Vaati, showing his transformation from Ezlo's apprentice to a powerful sorcerer. It also chronicles the creation of the iconic Four Sword. Both Vaati and the Four Sword are central to the Four Swords sub-series, making the Minish Cap an essential piece of the puzzle for understanding that particular branch of the Zelda timeline. The visual presentation of the Minish Cap is a huge part of its enduring appeal, showcasing some truly remarkable artistic and technical achievements for the Game Boy Advance. The Minish Cap immediately stands out with its cartoonish art style, which upon its release drew direct comparisons to the Wind Waker. And here's a confession. This was my first time ever playing the Minish Cap. I skipped the Game Boy Advance era, so I don't really have any nostalgia for it. So let me tell you, I was genuinely blown away by how fantastic this game looked right from the start. The pixel art really is fantastic, and it just goes to show you how well some 2D visuals age. Unlike so many early 3D games that look blocky and rough by today's standards, meticulously crafted pixel art retains its charm and visual integrity. The game's ability to look this good on an, at the time, aging hardware is just proof that strong artistic direction can overcome technical limitations. It's a huge factor in why this game holds up so well and looks just as glorious today as it did decades ago. When Link shrinks down, the game masterfully manipulates scale, turning puddles into huge lakes and tiny cracks into hidden pathways. This shifting perspective forces you to constantly reconsider the world around you. Scale becomes a puzzle, making this game feel way ahead of its time. The Minish Cap's gameplay follows the core top-down Zelda formula. The game builds upon the established action-adventure framework of the series while introducing novel mechanics and items to give it a unique identity. The ability to shrink down to the minuscule size of the Minish is without a doubt the standout feature of the Minish Cap's gameplay. I really enjoyed this aspect of the game. It truly made the game feel larger than it was, and it was incredibly clever how the development team thought of interactions, like playing against regular default enemies who were now huge bosses. Then there's the Kinstone fusing system, which I was less thrilled about, and for me was just one of the weaker points in the game. Throughout the adventure, Link collects various Kinstone pieces, and by finding and matching pieces with NPCs or specific environmental elements, he can fuse them to trigger a wide array of events. These events range from revealing hidden areas and opening new paths, to spawning treasure chests or even influencing the world in subtle ways. This was just a little bit too much for me and kind of repetitive. Another minor grievance I had with this game is just how fetch questy it can feel. And again, I think this is mostly attributed to the Kinstone fusing. When fusing Kinstones, you'll be intrigued to travel to the location of the chest, area, or event that you just unlocked, which to me started feeling like a fetchy side quest needed to potentially upgrade your character. After obtaining the Ocarina, this wasn't really much an issue anymore because then I could fast travel. The Minish Cap introduces several memorable new items that are cleverly integrated into its puzzle solving and combat. Some of these standout items include the Mole Mitts, which allow Link to dig through earthen walls, the Gust Jar, used for sucking up enemies and clearing debris, and the Cane of Pasi, capable of flipping objects upside down. These items are central to the game's masterfully crafted dungeons, which are consistently praised for their unique and challenging puzzles. When it comes to inventory management and switching your items, I did find it a little bit cumbersome to have to pause the game and go into the item inventory every time, but this was normal for games at the time, so I kind of looked past that. Combat in the Minish Cap largely retains the classic 2D Zelda hack-and-slash feel, characterized by straightforward swordplay and the strategic use of items. It felt much like a familiar formula from other Zelda games, which isn't at all a bad thing. Scattered and hidden throughout the game, you will find several trainers known as the Blade Brothers. Visiting these trainers will unlock new abilities for you to use. Most of these are optional, but will definitely help out in the long run, especially during the final boss fights. As you upgrade the Four Sword, you'll also gain the ability to create timed clones of yourself, allowing you to move larger objects or attack in unison. The game features a good variety of enemies, and its boss battles are often lauded for their creativity, frequently requiring players to utilize Link's new items or his shrinking ability to exploit enemy weaknesses. Honestly, I think this game might hold some of the most challenging and most fun boss battles in the Zelda series. The final boss fight against Vaati was definitely up there as one of the most challenging boss fights I've ever faced. For one, there is a gauntlet of enemies you'll have to face before you even fight Vaati, and once you get to him, you'll have to defeat all 3 of his lengthy phases. If you lose, you go back to the gauntlet. I had to attempt it multiple times, and when I couldn't beat it, I had to find more Tiger Scrolls to upgrade my combat skills to get a better advantage. Again, I'm not saying this is a negative. It was challenging, and I like challenging, but at times it did feel absolutely brutal. And now, to answer the question, is The Legend of Zelda The Minish Cap as good as we remember? As mentioned before, when this game was released in 2004, it received a Metacritic score of 89. At the time of its release, critics praised its gorgeous and dazzling visuals and detailed sprites with dynamic backdrops. There was a huge positive response around the innovative shrinking mechanic and the masterfully crafted dungeon design. The small amount of criticism that the game did receive was that some gamers found the game's length to be too short. The kinstone fusings were repetitive, and some of the boss fights were extremely difficult. Having played the majority of console Zelda titles, I can definitely see how the Minish Cap started changing the dynamic in Zelda gameplay. To me, it kind of feels like it was the conduit for new ideas from old Zelda games to the newer ones. In my experience, I knew that I was going to have a good time with this game. Zelda games as a whole mostly deliver for me. The visuals and pixel art still hold up today, and I love the inclusion of the shrinking mechanic and what felt like an infinite amount of puzzles that piqued my interest. I spent about 19 hours to complete the game, and I was nowhere near 100%, so I'm not really sure what people were complaining about when they were talking about the game being too short. Some things I disliked about the game was the repetitiveness of the kinstone fusions, some of the game's fetch quests, and the need to pause the game to go into the menu to manage your inventory. But all these considered, it didn't take too much away from my experience. So to answer the question, yes, the Minish Cap is definitely as good as we remember, so much so that I'm going to give it an 85 out of 100 on my newly created replay index. Hey, if you liked this video, it would mean a great deal to me if you could give it a big thumbs up. And if you would like to support Mass Replay, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member or patron on Patreon. Becoming a member or patron can get you all of my videos early and ad-free, and if you do so at the producer level, you'll get your name shouted out at the end of each of my videos, just like Paula Boone, Jake Weed, Tanner Trezza, and Pezmage. Your support is what helps this channel grow. Please let me know what other games you'd like to see me explore in this series in the comments below, and hopefully, you'll see me on my next video.